Standards eat discipline for breakfast. You're going to learn why it's a bit of a scam when I interview my co-author today. This is Craig Ballantyne, the host of Early to Rise Radio, and my co-author of The Dark Side of Discipline is Daniel Woodrum. So let's talk about why standards eat discipline for breakfast. Daniel, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see your book back there.
Exactly, man. The USA bestseller.
Yes, sir.
Listen, man, what does the dark side of discipline mean to you? What is that definition of the dark side of it?
Yeah, growing up, I always really struggled in school, and I had a lot of insecurities, just did not excel in academics. And I think some of it was obviously a lack of effort, if you will, but also just I did not test well. And so I used discipline growing up, really work ethic and hard work and discipline as my superpower, if you will. And it served me very well all the way up through, becoming an entrepreneur and owning some gym businesses. But eventually I kind of got trapped in that prison, and I ended up abusing discipline, and I took it way too far. And, it caused a lot of issues. I had a lot of bad habits. It affected my relationship with my wife early on in our marriage. And, thanks to a lot of help from you, Craig, and just exposing me to the dark side of discipline, now I'm able to create standards, which I will talk about, and be able to really level up my success and not get caught in the dark side of discipline.
So a lot of people would think like, oh man, if my wife could just get me a little bit more discipline, that'd be helpful. So how did discipline hurt your relationship?
Yeah, I was so caught up in my work, and it was, again, like that was my identity. It's like, I'm a business owner, I'm a gym owner. And so I was working 10, 12 hours per day, doing a lot of low-level tasks. And so I was not present with my family. I think I shared this story with you, Craig. It's in the book as well. One of the key moments for me was my daughter at the time was 3 years old. It's her first daughter, Belize. And I was in the kitchen. I was in the living room. My wife was in the kitchen cooking dinner. And Belize was playing with some toys, on the kitchen counter. I should have been playing with her. And I'm on my phone. I don't remember if it was social media, email, whatever it was, something work related. Yeah. And she's trying to get my attention. I'm so enamored with my phone, I don't even realize it. And finally, she hits me. She's like, "Daddy, pay attention." And I'm like, oh my God, like somebody just stabbed me in the heart, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I'm going to go. I'm going to focus on family. Next day, I'm right back in that same doom loop, as we call it in the book, right? So I had to be able to create systems, which I'm sure we can talk about, that allowed me to not just rely on willpower, but to be able to rely on standards and be fully present with my family.
Right. So in the book, we talk about, there's discipline, and then underneath that is systems, and then underneath that is identity and standards. Yeah. And, the lower that you go on our pyramid, the more powerful it is. So what's the difference, first of all, between discipline and systems?
Yeah, so discipline is still essentially relied on willpower. It's habits, right? Yeah. So if it's like, hey, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm not going to hit the snooze button. Okay, great. Discipline is a choice, right? Every single day when we are faced with a choice, it is a choice in the moment. It is often reactive. It's based on how do you feel? In the morning time, if you're not going to hit the snooze button, did I get a good night's sleep, right? Yeah. Did I plan and prepare the night before? Do I know what I'm going to be doing first thing in the morning time? That is a choice. And when you're faced with a choice, you're going to rely on willpower, and you're probably not going to make the best choice every single time, depending on how you feel. But systems, it protects you. It is boundaries. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to put my phone across the room, so I have to get up in the morning time in order to turn the alarm off. That is a system, right? If I'm going to text a coach, if I'm going to text Craig when I wake up in the morning, I did not hit the snooze button. That is accountability. That is part of the overarching system. So a system is boundaries that allows you not just to rely on willpower, which is ultimately still what discipline is.
Yeah. Okay. And then so systems are then underneath that is the identity and the standards. And so when we say that standards eat discipline for breakfast, how is this different than the way that most people think about discipline?
Yeah. It's funny because I remember when we were writing the book, you're like, Daniel, I've got this great line, standard.
I didn't say that I had a great line. I knew it was a great line.
You knew it was a great line.
Speak for itself.
You knew it was a great line. But I was like, oh my God, like there's always those, few lines or statements you want to be memorable, right? In a book or podcast. I was like, that is definitely one. So standards eat discipline for breakfast. So again, discipline is a choice. Standards is a decision that has already been made. Standards is non-negotiables. They're rules of your life. So for example, again, if you're relying on just discipline when it comes to hitting the snooze button, that is a choice every single day. But if you have standards, if you have an identity, if you have a non-negotiable that I am a person of integrity, I protect my morning at all costs, I never hit the snooze button. That is a decision that's already been made. So when that alarm goes off in the morning time, you've already made the decision. You're already in alignment with your identity that I am not going to hit the snooze button. And ultimately, that's why we say standards eat discipline for breakfast. And it's always thinking like, I'm an eggs and bacon guy, right? So it's like standards is the egg and bacon. That's the foundation, right? Like hot sauce or cheese is the discipline. It's nice to have, it's like a little kick, but that cannot actually be the substance or the foundation of everything. So systems or standards and identity is really the foundation of your success.
So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and you work one-on-one with so many entrepreneurs, and you see them come in with all levels of discipline and all types of struggles with discipline. What are the most common things that you have to help people fix, and how do you make sure that they are able to sustain those changes?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is people are distracted by their phone, right? I know again, like I was one of those, right? I just talked about my situation with my daughter Blease at the time. And so luckily from you gave me this Opal app, right? You gave me the idea. You got it from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
I remember you sitting on accountability email and I'm like, I'm going to download things. It seems like exactly what I need. So I ended up paying $99 for a year subscription. And it allows me, and it allows other coaching clients that we've helped about this, is it helps you create a system, helps you protect and gives you boundaries. So now you can actually customize your phone based on what is available to you at certain times of the day. So for example, a lot of times—
for $99, you've bought back your hours of time for like 10 cents.
Absolutely.
Like 3 hours a day minimum.
Yeah.
300 days plus days of the year, man. That's a great deal.
Yeah.
And we have no financial incentive.
Which we should, because that's how much we promote it. We could have made a lot of money being an affiliate partner with them. But that's one of the biggest things, is just helping people eliminate the distractions with systems. So obviously the phone distraction is one of them. Another system we help clients implement is what we call RGA, revenue generating activities, because a lot of our entrepreneur clients, they wake up, they immediately go into reactive mode, checking social media, checking emails, replying back to clients, things that can be done, need to get done, but at a later time. Mm-hmm. And so if you can just dedicate, if you can block off at least an hour of your morning working on revenue generating activities, marketing, sales, content creation, creating a new offer, whatever it may be, that is going to allow you to move the needle forward every single day. And again, as we say in the book, in the morning time, you're the most creative, you're the most disciplined, you're the least distracted. And so if you can do that stuff first thing in the morning, whatever else happens the rest of the day, at least you did something productive to move the needle forward in your business.
What are some real world examples where you've helped somebody move from, white knuckling willpower and discipline to implementing standards in their life that has just made their life easier and themselves more productive?
Yeah, I'll give an example of Coach Galil, one of our coaches on our team and one of my dear friends in our inner circle. And Galil's always struggled with getting up early on time. And about 3 months ago, he came and stayed with us in Charleston. And I remember he got there, of course, he's in West Coast time, he's from California. So he got there that evening, he's sitting down with me and my wife at our house. And he's like, all right, Daniel, I know you're the morning guy. I'm going to follow you the next 2 mornings. I just want to see what your morning structure is like. I want to experience it. I'm like, Galil, I leave the house at 4 o'clock, right, to go to Starbucks. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, that means you've got to set your alarm with a 3 in front of it, right? He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, all right. So I was like, I don't have high expectations. If he does not get up, I'm not going to be mad at him, right? So right,
because he's coming from West Coast.
He's coming to West Coast, exactly. It's like 1 o'clock his time, 12 o'clock his time. So I open up our sliding glass back door at 4 o'clock. He's staying in the guest house behind our house. He's out there with his phone. He's like, I just had to capture this. He was up there.
Good.
And so we ended up going to Starbucks, going to the gym, and then getting home so I get my kids up and get them ready for school. That's the 3 most important things to me every single day is, getting productive work done, exercising, and then being home with my kids before they go off to school. So he experienced that. He's like, man, I'm so much more productive. I'm more active. Yeah. I'm more focused. I'm getting better sleep at night. So he went back home and then implemented similar routine. He found his own routine. He didn't run my path, but he found his own routine. Now he's getting up at 4:45 every single morning. It is now a standard. He no longer relies on discipline. It's no longer a choice, right? It is a decision that's already been made. And so he's just excelled in so many different areas.
Yeah, for me, the standards versus discipline really comes up really well with alcohol. So, years ago, I used to be a binge drinker, and then I moved to social drinker, and then once a month drinker. And so it was a lot of discipline around, I go out with somebody and be like, hey, do you want to have a drink? Nah, I don't want to. I got to get up early. And over time, it just uses up a lot of your mental energy. There's a lot of decision fatigue, with this wrestling in your head. And then when I decided to set the standard of I'm not the type of person who drinks alcohol and just quit alcohol completely, now I can go anywhere. I could go to a nightclub. I could go to a restaurant. And people can, put alcohol in my face, and I'll just go, I just don't drink alcohol.
Yep.
It's so easy. It's like, it's not even a decision.
Yeah.
It's just a rule. And, I can still have a great time, but I don't have that, fight in my head And there's just so much benefit to it. And I read this quote it's like almost like 2 days after I gave up alcohol, that it said, it's better to be 100% out than 99% out. And at the time I was just drinking like maybe once a month, and it really truly was that. It was very freeing for me. And so that standard that I put in place in my life, I've applied plenty of other standards like that that's just made it so much easier for me.
To that point, Craig, I have not shared this publicly, but I think it's a good time to do it now, is that I know a lot of people, coaching client of ours, friends of ours, that struggle with pornography.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had always just sort of consumed since high school, didn't really think anything of it. Mm-hmm. But as I got older and got married and had kids, like every time I would consume it, I would feel icky afterwards, if you will, right? And it's like, but I was relying on discipline and willpower, I'm not going to watch it tomorrow, I'm not going to watch it this week, And again, I was faced with a choice. And in the moment, I would make the wrong choice.
Sure.
And I saw a video that you put up on YouTube that went pretty viral, I believe, and said how to stop watching porn. This was maybe, a year ago or so, I think you put it out there?
Probably a year and a half.
Yeah. And I watched it, and it's like, that's just what I needed to hear. Like, it's an evil industry. What are you doing supporting this? Yeah. And I remember that moment after watching it, I was like, I'm not going to watch porn again. And I remember I texted you, I WhatsApped you. I said, Craig, I appreciate that video. Like, I'm not going to watch porn anymore. Your video meant a lot to me. And you're like, people like me and you, Daniel, do not support evil industries like that, And
yeah, we're good men, honorable men. We're just not the type of man who does that.
Yeah. And so I quit cold turkey that day, and it's been like 9 or 10 months, and I haven't watched it ever since then, right? Yeah. And so again, it's leveling up your identity, your standards, and it's just so powerful when you make decisions off of standards and not rely on discipline.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, that case, because in a lot of cases of people losing bad habits, they think it's going to be this long, it's going to take me months and years. Like with me, with drinking, it took me a long time. But when you're using systems and making habit change, it can be that way. But it's interesting is that some people, when they change their standards, they literally can change overnight.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who used to be a big binge drinker. I mean, this guy would drink 20 beers in a day at his family parties that he'd have, that start at 12 and go till like 10 o'clock at night. And then one day he just said, I'm quitting drinking. I'm just not the type of person who drinks anymore. And I mean, you want to talk about like going from one extreme to the other. Yeah. But it worked because he just changed his identity in his mind, and it was so powerful. And it's, that situation is the same. And I had the same thing happen to me, because it was probably about 2010, so like 15 years ago. I used to go to, my friends would like binge drink and go to strip club. And, I was telling my friend, Matt, who I bought Early to Rise with, like, hey, last weekend, I was hungover, I was trying to like quit alcohol. And I said, we went to the strip club. And he goes, oh man, I just don't do that. I just think I'm just not the type of person who does that. I'm not the type of man. And I like immediately never went to one ever again, because I was like, here's a guy who I look up to, and he just said, I'm not the type of man who does that. And I was like, that's interesting. I look up to you. I want to be more like you. I can do that too. Yeah. It's just like, that's right. I am not the type of man who supports that industry. And that's all it takes in some cases. So for some people have more of the habit and routine, and it's in their nervous system, and they need to set up systems. Like, with you and the phone, it was habit and routine. It was just, as most people, it's like pick up phone. And, for someone to then say, oh, I'm not the type of person who picks up phone, because your nervous system is so involved in that, then it's probably something you're gonna have to use the Opal app and put in a box or whatever and physically remove it. But in certain cases, there are certain things, and especially certain people or certain environments, where you can just say, I'm not the type of person who hangs around those people. I'm not the type of person who goes to those places. And it can be a literal, overnight, immediate, instantaneous change when you're switching and making that standards change. Yep. And that's why it's so powerful compared to discipline, and why we say that it eats discipline.
Yeah, and it's like discipline is what you do, standards are who you are, and there's a big difference there.
Exactly. So how does someone who's listening to this start setting higher personal standards today? Like, what's one of the first steps they can take? Yeah,
so we've got a system that's in our book, but the way that it works is I want you to identify the 4 most key areas in your life. What are the 4 areas of your life that are most important to you? And for everyone, it's going to be different. But to give you an example, mine is family, health, discipline, and leadership. Like, those are the 4 areas of my life that are most important. So identify the 4 areas of your life that are most important. After that, I want you to write a mission statement or a value statement of why each of those areas is important to you. So write a mission statement for each of those 4 key areas. So for me, for family, for example, it's family is everything. They come before anything and everything else in life. Like just very simple mission statement, but just allows you to get alignment with the areas of your life. After you do that, 4 areas that are most important to you, then you get the mission statement for each. Then I want you to create 3 standards for each of those areas, which ultimately allows you to have 12 personal standards of your life. Now, I'm a big believer in...
walk me through a couple of years.
Yeah. So for family, for example, I've got never take a work commitment after 4 p.m.
Sure.
And that is a standard because, again, when I was just relying on discipline, I would take coaching calls or meetings or doing work after that. And again, that would rub into my family
because
time.
you'd make a choice in the moment. Like,
Exactly.
Oh, man, I feel bad.
Yeah. You know, Brittany, my wife will understand, right?
Yeah.
After a while, she doesn't understand anymore when it happens over and over again. So that was one, right? And so now there's no more. And there have been times where I have caught myself and she will call me out. We all need accountability. Daniel, like, I see that there's a meeting on her schedule for 4:30. What's going on? So she's had to call me out a couple of times in the past and realign me with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one is that I tell my kids I love them every single day because that's important to me because my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. I would see my dad every other weekend. And so I didn't get to hear that from him all the time. Right. So that's very important to me. And then the last one is more of like a statement of #Team Woodrum because before I set that standard, my wife and I were not always on the same page. We didn't work very well together in terms of raising our kids. And there was a lot of resentment, a lot of frustration, a lack of communication in that area. So those are just examples. Now, what I would challenge you to do, because I'm a big believer in think big, start small. It can be overwhelming thinking, oh my God, I got to create 12 standards. Why don't you just create 1 standard for each of those 4 areas of your life? So that will give you 4 standards. Focus on that for 30 days. Commit to that. Create systems around it. Create accountability around that. Get compliance with that. And then add another one to each of the areas. Then you have 8 total standards. Do that for another 30 days. And then after 90 days, hopefully you'll be able to implement all 12 of those personal standards.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then, so for somebody who's an entrepreneur and listening to this, like, man, how can I use these standards to implement them into my life so that I make more money and be more productive? What are the steps for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, one of the ultimate ones for me is the revenue generating activities, right? So, and one thing that I would also say is that I'm a big believer. We always say successful morning starts the night before. What you want to do is not only do you want to do your end of day brain dump, everything that's in your mind, write that stuff out, end of your workday, not before you go to bed because that's too close to bedtime, but then just write out what are the 2 or 3 main priorities, the revenue generating activities that I need to do tomorrow, and then write out a couple of bullet points under those. And we have a client named Matt who joined our coaching back in January. And that's one of the biggest standards that we helped him implement was end of day routine, brain dump, priority planning for the next day, and then just block 2 hours in your next morning for revenue generating activities following that list that you already created the night before. And it's been a game changer. He runs his business off of launches. And he's like, Daniel, like, I'm just getting clients out of nowhere without even running these launches. This has never happened before, but it's because he's consistent with revenue generating activities. And he's done with work at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon now. And he's like, he's got that now, the new problem of guilt. Like, I feel like I should be doing something. It's like, no. This is what happens when you're structured. You create more freedom. You have more time now to do other things outside of your business.
Awesome. So first step you would say is for everybody to pick those 4 categories and do one standard.
One standard for the 4 categories for 30 days, get compliance with those, and then create the next layer of that until you get all 12 standards.
Awesome, man. Awesome. This is Daniel Woodrum and Craig Ballantyne, the authors of The Dark Side of Discipline, and I'm the host of the Early to Rise radio show. We'll see you on the next one.